Well, thank you all for joining us today for our webinar. It's a pleasure to welcome you to another session in our Interstellar Insight series, inspired by my book, What Space Got to Do with It? An Interstellar Guide to Success. This book builds on the momentum of my first volume, focused on putting purpose into motion. It's shaped by more than 3 decades of experience in the global space ecosystem and informed by interviews with over 200 extraordinary thought leaders from around the world. Together, their stories illustrate how we can lead, adapt, and act with impact, no matter the environment. At its core, this book is organized around 4 pillars: leadership, awareness, access, and action. Today's session highlights the final but foundational pillar, action, through the lens of mentorship. Mentorship is more than guidance. It's a powerful accelerant for growth, confidence, and clarity. It connects experience with potential and wisdom with momentum. So whether formal or informal, mentorship helps us rise, helping others rise along with us. It's how we build trust, expand access, and transform insight into lasting impact. In Chapter 10, mentorship sets you up for success. We explore how mentorship becomes the structure that threads leadership, awareness, and access into action. It's not just something we receive, it's something we extend. It's a call to lead with intention, invest in others, and multiply our influence across communities. To help us explore this final chapter and pillar, I'm joined by 2 incredible changemakers whose journeys reflect the deep transformative power of mentorship: Ingrid Ahumada and Deborah Sass. Their stories span continents and industries, but they share a common thread. Each of them uses mentorship as a catalyst for purpose-driven leadership. So, whether you're an experienced leader, an emerging innovator, or someone simply curious about how to make a difference, this session is for you. Together, we'll explore how mentorship can help you launch forward, lift others, and lead in a way that truly lasts. So, kicking us off, I'm delighted to welcome Ingrid Ahumada, a data strategist and digital transformation expert based in Colombia. She's the founder of eScalable Digital Tech, where she helps organizations harness data to drive growth, innovation, and impact. With a background spanning technology and entrepreneurship, Ingrid is also dedicated to mentoring and utilizing her expertise to empower women and migrant entrepreneurs around the world. Welcome, Ingrid. We're so excited to have you with us.
Thank you so much, Shelly. I am really honored. I'm so excited to be here. Well, as you said, I've been in business, I would say, in the last 18 years. I have 18 years experience in business in general, but the half of that, I've been leading digital transformation and data analytics projects. I'm focused right now on growth and revenue. And right now, something that I would highlight is that I've been working remotely for over more than 8 years. So that has allowed me to have given me the opportunity to work with businesses and companies across US and Europe, just being remotely completely, even before pandemic. So that has kind of support me to help people and to impact in teams like worldwide. My focus is helping businesses grow by using data as a core asset. And right now I'm just, building system and helping them to scale.
Fantastic. Thank you so much, Ingrid, for joining us. And we're excited to jump into those questions with you. But before we do, I'm so honored to welcome my good friend, Deborah Sass, the CEO and founder of Spaceverse and co founder of Space Hero, 2 visionary ventures transforming how we connect with space through immersive technology and global storytelling. With over 30 years of experience across advertising, entertainment, and digital innovation, Deborah is a trailblazer shaping the future of the space economy by inspiring the next generation of explorers and entrepreneurs. Welcome, Deborah.
Wow, 30 years. I started when I was 7. Amazing. Thank you so much, Shelley, for having me on this momentous occasion to promote your brilliant book and to talk about something that's very close to all our hearts. So,
Fantastic. Oh, go ahead.
so I I think that the only start to a good conversation is just a little bit of confrontation. So I remember when I first was told about Space Hero, and I got a phone call from my business partner, and he said, I want you to help me launch this amazing company in the space business. And I said, well, I don't know anything about the space business. What is it? And he said, it's a global casting show giving away the biggest prize ever given out on television, a $55 million ticket for a 10-day stay on the ISS. And I said, sign me up. That's amazing. I'm in. I've just got one question. And he said, what? And I said, what's the ISS? And now, 8 years later, Shelli, and you and I have known each other for almost all of that time, we have got a giant community of space enthusiasts in 147 countries, spanning more than 15 million subscribers. So, from not knowing what the ISS was and having no experience in the space industry, to now actually being a very large part of it. I mean, lots of mentorship going on there, both mentoring and mentorees.
Fabulous. Well, I have two incredible people to talk about mentorship, so thank you both so much for those introductions. But before we jump in, I think you shared a little bit of your story, Deborah and Ingrid, but that's what I'd like to do first. I know you really well and your story's in the book, but what I'd like to do is introduce you better to the audience. So if each of you could share more about your journey, how did you get to where you are? So Ingrid, I'd love to start with you.
Of course. Well, to be honest, I've been always an entrepreneur. Like even from being in high school, I remember myself like buying things like in downtown, and just context, like downtown in my country is not like the cute and great area to work on. It's like really chaotic. So, but you can get like really cheap things. So I was like going downtown, buying things, and then sell it with a bit higher price over here in the north of the city, like things like that. But then I started working as an employee, as a normal type of regular 9 to 5 job in bank industry, and then being on admins and finance of my early career. And then I kind of decided to, okay, I was like, I needed to make a decision, like either get an MBA or launch myself in the entrepreneur journey. And I decided, of course, to go in entrepreneurship. So that was a huge, let's say, change in my, like before and after in my life. And then that was like my first crisis. I made all the mistakes that you can imagine being as an entrepreneur on that first, jump, basically. So yeah, it was, since then, it's been 10 years being as an entrepreneur with ups and downs. I started working remotely like back in 2016 with Upwork, like a freelancer. And then I started creating my own team here. And then, like, first was only myself, and there was 2, 3, 5, and then we were like a 10 people team. And then we were just working with 4 companies across US. And basically, after a few years working in digital environments and digital products, I get to know the data, BI and data pipelines projects, and I got in love and obsessed. And since then, I am working and focused on only data and digital technologies. So what I do basically is kind of help companies transition being a traditional operation, or everything from Excel, paper, or whatever, that it still exists and a lot, and helping those companies and teams to transform into getting the data and the digital component in the core of their operations. So one of the key things is that I see revenue and sales is the core of any businesses. But when you incorporate and when you add this tech component into them, you can like scale, but let's define a scale, right? Like it's scale, I mean, not only grow revenue, because it's not more common, it's more like to grow profit and to grow quality life from all the team members. Because when you think about business, you think of stressful things, and it doesn't have to be that way. So that's one of the things that I love in technology, is that it allows you to have that balance, like quality life, good life quality, or even to allow teams to be like to develop more personal type of growth, and it allows you to basically expand your mindset. So yeah, that's basically a little bit of myself.
Fabulous. Well, thank you so much. And obviously, we'll jump into more detail about mentoring and opportunities, but Ingrid is a fantastic mentor, especially when it comes to entrepreneurship. Now, Deborah, I know you have an incredibly colorful background and journey. So you shared a little bit about Spaceverse and Space Hero, but I know you have a lot more to share with our audience beyond that. Like you said, you didn't even know what ISS was. So how did you even, from where you started, get to even that part of your journey?
Well, growing up without a very, let's call it progressive education in the 70s in London, and also being a woman of color, not that that is it's just an observation. I think that having a very a way of always being really determined. So whenever there were problems, I just found a way, because I didn't have the opportunity. Like, necessity is the mother of all invention. So I didn't have an education to be able to go and apply for the jobs that I probably should have done or wanted to do back then. So I had to be able to do stuff. And what I was able to do was get into the media world. And so from working, I mean, my first job when I was 17 was picking up the phone 80 times a day, asking those tiny little lines in the Yellow Pages book, which I'm sure nobody in your audience even knows. There used to be this big yellow book with all the classified ads, and ringing them and asking if they wanted advertising to have a bigger ad, which they'd have to pay for. But what you're learning is you're learning how to listen to a complete stranger on the phone. You're learning buying signals, and you're learning about business development. And from moving into that very easy, let's call it advertising world, moving into the television and the radio and the newspapers, and then moving into the entertainment world. And I actually helped launch companies like Spotify and Shazam with a lot of data. Ingrid and I have that in common. I'm a massive data geek, because actually data is critical on the internet for everything that we do. If data isn't standardized, if things are not normalized and they're not cataloged properly, you can't find anything. It's actually, meta tagging was sexy 25 years ago because nobody knew what it was. But I think really not having an opportunity makes you either push yourself out of your comfort zone, or you end up doing what the traditional part was. And so I shied away from that, because I understood how to communicate. When you can communicate, and you can also, as Ingrid said, sell a product or develop business, one, you'll never starve. And secondly, you can work in any industry in the world. So from going from entertainment, I told you a little bit about my journey into the space business. But what I always say to new people when I talk to them is, if I can do what I've done with no education, no experience, and no contacts at all in the space business, and I have just spent 3 years on the World Economic Global Forum Space Council and didn't even know 8 years ago what the ISS was, then you guys can do anything at all. And I did it the old-fashioned way. I went and met people. I went and phoned people. I went and met people and told them to introduce me to other people. I ended up, Shelli, just before I met you, we realized that I had made, because I had signed 3,484 NDAs, which meant that I had 3,484 conference calls in 3 years in the space industry. I met 25 people in 2018, and I made those 25 people introduce me to one person, and somebody introduced me to another person. And then I went to another event and another event. And literally, what they call pounding the pavement, I just kept talking about space. I just kept talking about media and talking about how do you tell the stories of the amazing people in the space industry and actually make it interesting and relatable to people outside of the space industry. And that's a little bit about my journey.
Fantastic. I love it. Well, as we look at the questions, I've broken them into theme topics. So the first theme is on mentorship as mutual growth. So, how has mentorship shaped your personal journey or professional journey, not just as the mentee, but as the mentor? And can you share a moment when you learned just as much as you gave? So, Deborah, we'll come back to you and start with your thoughts on that.
Me?
Yes,
Me?
ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Oh, me. I thought you said you were coming back to me. Okay, sorry. My story for the first ever time, I actually didn't realize I was being mentored. And I think that was the biggest lesson for me, is how when you lead by example, you're actually not telling people what to do. You're just leading with the right integrity, the right authenticity. And I'm still friends with her today, almost 30 years later. Her name is Louise McCann. She's a brilliant, brilliant media leader. I suppose she's probably quite famous in Australia. She ran TV stations and all sorts of big companies. And she was the first person in my 20s that ever mentored me. And I do remember one time, and this has been, I wouldn't say critical, but certainly something that shaped me. We were in the bathroom of our office. I was in my early 20s, and there was do you remember the Fridays used to be like casual Fridays in an office? So I've gone to work in what I thought was the coolest juicy couture tracksuit ever. And she had seen me in the bathroom and said, Deborah, well, I know I said it was casual Fridays, but if any of our clients, which were all of the advertising agencies and all the TV stations in the whole of Australia, if they came into the office, I don't think a juicy couture tracksuit would be the right look. And it stuck with me because she was so elegant and sophisticated, but she still was able to show me the way she dressed. She always had beautifully manicured nails. She always had lipstick on. And it was something that stuck with me, that the first impression is the last impression. And what you say is only part of it. How you look, the language you use, whether you have chip nail polish or pulled back hair or whatever it is, all these little things, people recognize that and they remember that. And it made me want to be more polished. And so that was a lesson I learned, and that I have now mentored hundreds of young women especially from the global South. And it's one thing I always say to them. And now I've got lots and lots of my mentees who have a certain style when they go to conferences. And you can wear a t-shirt, but have a nice jacket on, have a nice skirt or trousers and a pair of cool sneakers. So you look stylish, but you're still comfortable, and always have some makeup on, blah, blah, blah. So, it's just little things like that I think are important in a professional setting.
Fantastic. I love that. Uh, and I have my cool rhinestone covered tennis shoes that I wear to all the conferences now. And absolutely. So, Ingrid, I'd love to hear your thoughts about how mentorship has shaped your personal and professional growth, as well as not just for the mentee, or I call them a mentee or protege, but as the mentor as well.
Yeah, Shelly. Well, actually, for me, it's been a powerful two-way learning journey. I think mutual growth is really, really assertive to say. So I started I think was 3 years ago with 51 Labs. 51 Labs is one of it's a global community. They started back in LA, and then they started in Iraq as a second country and Colombia as a third one. And they are focused on helping migrants and entrepreneur women. And it's very, very special. Well, there is actually two programs. One is for women, and there's one that is for everyone. But I have supported on both, and I have very, very connected with the women kind of group, because I remember, for example, last year that there was like a really, really, I was going through a difficult period in my personal and family life. And this group was really, let's say, it was critical to help me get out of that situation. I was feeling horrible. And mentoring was one of the few things that I didn't want to stop doing. Even when I had to pause other part of my life, this was something that, okay, I need to keep doing this. And during those sessions, it was like, even when I was planning the session or showed up for it or came out of it, I left with just as many learnings as I shared. Like it was very like reflecting afterward. It was very, I came out of recharged and inspired. And, you know, at the same time, I was guiding someone through something that I felt completely comfortable with. So it was kind of a definitely mutual collaboration. And I think, you know, focusing on sharing with you that difficult time last year, it was key to me to have these 1 hour sessions or 2 hour sessions to lift me up, right? So it was the kind of experience that fills me up. I walk away more alive, more grounded, and like full of energy.
Fantastic. I love that. I love what you said, Deborah. You know, it's even about being that role model. Like you said, you can look at someone and emulate their style, their behaviors, their mannerisms. How do they communicate in meetings? And then, like you said, just gently taking someone aside and saying something that's a tip that helps them in a way that they may have not realized. You know, Juicy Couture, I love that outfit too, uh, but maybe not in the office setting. And Ingrid, I know we met through an amazing mentoring program through Women Tech Network, and that's a fabulous organization and mentoring program, as well as the mentoring program you shared. And I agree, there are a lot of things that I can put to the side, but I love being a mentor, that ability to step outside myself and think about supporting others. And you and I are both supporting the World Space Week Astropreneur Entrepreneurship Program. So I'm really excited about how all of you are incredible role models and mentors and finding ways to give back, but that we also still grow through this. So as we pivot to the next question theme, which is creating access through mentorship, you each work across different sectors and regions of the world. I mean, you're both global, but definitely in different regions. How have you seen mentorship help open doors for others, especially for those who might not have had access otherwise? So, Ingrid, I'll start with you, especially since you talked about obviously migrant, displaced individuals really have a challenge with being entrepreneurs and finding mentorship. So, let's start with that question with you.
Yeah, for sure. One of the things that I got to help them is that when think about these women, when they come through, in this case, they come from Venezuela, you know, that this country is going through a difficult to share some of contacts. So networking has helped them to basically know new suppliers, to know new clients, to know to expand basically their like the network, right? So one of the cases I remember when I was this family sells, they made their own yogurt. And one of the things is that they connected with a new supplier that allows them to get better profit margin basically, and you know, connected them with local suppliers that also help them on all the logistics, the cost planning. So you know, in my case, I would highlight networking. Like in this case, these mentees got the opportunity to connect with some new people that can help them in either uh, client suppliers, like both sides, but in at the end it's more like to basically grow what they are trying to build, right? So yeah, I would highlight that.
That's fantastic. And Deborah, I'm going to pivot to you about that too, how you've seen mentorship help open doors for others. I mean, you highlighted how you did that. You didn't know anybody in the space industry. You met 25 people. You did a lot of that networking as well. But how do you see mentoring creating access for individuals?
It's absolutely critical. In fact, the first set of interns we took into the company was 40 people, and all of them were from countries where they didn't even have a space industry. And so, as a female, and a lot of them were women, but not all of them, but as the space industry is a very niche market and a very niche industry. So you're already kind of a minority. And if you're already living, for instance, one of the ladies who's now been with me for 5 years, when I first interviewed her, she was standing almost in front of a hut in Cameroon. And the thing about this young lady who's now gone on to do her own TEDx talk, I mean, she has blossomed in 5 years from a shy student to super stylish, public speaking, running part of our Spaceverse community. She's amazing. But she is one of many young women from the global south, but also from countries in Eastern Europe where being into space is it's not like a mainstream thing. They are nerdy, they're super smart, they want to do something. And I think that giving them because when they are happy, when they are satisfied, when they get to see that actually, I've personally been working from home for over 10 years. This is not a new thing, right? So imagine building a business when you're in the middle of an island in the middle of a farm. Well, it's been done. And it doesn't mean that we are cut off because we can't afford to get on a plane or we don't have the same access. Because actually, when you're working with a group of really passionate space people, everybody wants to meet everybody else and they can do it all virtually. This is the perfect example of how I'm in Spain, Ingrid's in Colombia, and you're in Colorado. Colorado?
Well, absolutely. And with that, I'm having some slight internet challenge. So hold on one second as we pivot our internet. So we're back at internet. That is the way of the world. But I think what's really insightful about what both of you said, but I'm Ingrid, I love what you're doing with displaced individuals, which is really challenging around the world. There's a huge amount of displaced individuals, the ability for entrepreneurship and STEM education and all of that. And what I loved about what Deborah said is it's challenging to take on interns because
Yeah.
it's a commitment. It's a commitment. And I'm doing a project with Blue Marble right now, Blue Marble Space, and we have 4 interns, and that's a commitment, but 40 interns. But what you really did when you took on 40 interns is you became a role model, a mentor, a coach, a teacher, somebody who helped launch their career. So I think that's amazing how you describe that. And so sometimes taking on that intern or protege, it's really about giving to them. But as both of you have said, we learn so much from being mentors. And I love that opportunity. And as you said, Ingrid, continuing to mentor even during challenging times helps you step outside yourself to see the bigger picture and to give back. And I think that helps to make you whole. So I love both of your thoughts on that. As we pivot to the next theme, which is from insights to impact, mentorship often moves people from hesitation to action. So, can you share an example of when mentorship maybe helped you or someone you mentored gain that confidence or clarity to take the next big step? So, Deborah, let me start with you.
Well, as I've already mentioned, my wonderful now staff member after starting as an intern. I'm going to talk about another young lady that came from Pakistan. She was actually a teacher in Pakistan, still living at home with her parents. And again, she's been with me for almost 5 years. And when she started, she was a total space nerd in a tiny village in a tiny city in Pakistan. And I remember talking to her about what her aspirations were. And she said, this is the most global opportunity that I've ever had, because women teachers and in Pakistan, we don't get those types of options for international companies. She is now studying her PhD in a university in the UK. And she always says, not only did you give me the guidance and the confidence to be able to do that, but having the opportunity to be able to look outside of my world. And now she's supporting a bunch of younger girls. She has hundreds of students that really kind of supported her in getting to the PhD side. And she's absolutely loving it. And she's a new person. She's the first time she's ever lived away from home, the first time she's been out of Asia. I mean, all these first and first. And again, I say it has a ripple effect. If we can inspire people to go out of what is their norm, and then all of a sudden they have a bigger goal and they keep building on that, you are changing people's lives, but you're changing every single person that would come into contact with that person in a positive way.
I love that. And Ingrid, I know you shared for the book some of your amazing proteges you've mentored. So I'm going to pivot over to you and say, can you share an example of when mentorship either helped you or helped someone you mentor? Help them take that next big step.
Yeah, to be honest, it's hard to pick one. There are a few stories that are, wow, like heartbreaking, but at the same, like positively, as Deborah said. But I would pick specifically one with Tiana, which was one of my mentees. I was helping her shape a go-to-market strategy and figure out how to target the right type of customer so her cash flow wouldn't be so affected by seasonality. So during our conversation, because one of the things that I also enjoy is that this is like mentoring is kind of having a focused conversation, right? So we were just talking and I started making a lot of questions to understand where they are at. And we uncovered that many of their clients were schools and universities, right? So of course, that meant that there were long breaks and vacation periods. So that insight led us to the conclusion that she needed to diversify her customer base to include clients with more consistent or year-round demand, right? So that shift and that helped her to even though that it required a big effort and logistic from the whole team, that made her to kind of awake from like, hey, maybe I just need to arrange things or relocate to manage how the internal process or whatever. But at the end, it will be worth it, and it was, because they started to get to approach to different type of customers, and now they have a lot of demand and they increase the revenue. And they are growing. This story from this lady is so inspiring. They started with selling things at the traffic lights, and then now they have their own car, their own apartment. The father, the son, the husband, everyone works in the company. So this is very, very inspiring example for me.
That's awesome. Now, the next two questions are going to kind of be lightning round, and I'll ask them of just one of you. And so this one will be for you, Ingrid. And the theme is you don't need permission to mentor. One of the core ideas in chapter 10 is that you don't have to wait to be a mentor. How would you encourage others to step into that role, even if they don't feel qualified yet? And what I mean by that is sometimes we feel seasoned, and it's always the older person, the more seasoned person mentoring. But younger people or any people can be mentors. So how do we encourage that, Ingrid?
Yeah, that's I love that because um, like everyone and each of us can teach or can guide or can help anyone, right? So I think the easiest and most powerful way to start mentoring would be like choosing a topic that you feel completely comfortable with, something where you have already like real experience and have achieved some kind of results, but especially something that you have experience having mistakes on, right? So that allows you to share with very confidently way that with your mentee and guide the people to avoid those mistakes, right? So it allows you also to share that having mistakes, it doesn't stop you to build something, and also brings more authentic and relatable energy to the session. Like it builds empathy as well in the conversation, in the relationship, because to be honest, that as well, like you have been my mentor, Shelly, and we have a strong relationship now, and I have a strong relationship with my mentees as well. So that also creates, I think, a powerful snowball at the end.
I think that's wonderful to share. And I always say, like, we're still friends and in touch. And there's different types of mentors. There's role models, there's somebody you can watch, there's mentors. Maybe you want one skill set, it's being an entrepreneur. But then there's more like life coaches, people that you bring into your life that help you not only through this piece, but help you continue to grow and develop. And I like to think I'm in all of those, but specifically, Ingrid, I like to be where we're life coaches because I learned from you. I have several other individuals through the Anusa Space for Women program that I've stayed in touch with as well, both as a mentor, protege, coach. It's been an amazing journey. So I love how you shared that. I'm going to pivot to the next question. And Deborah, this one's for you. And it's about embedding mentorship into leadership because you've highlighted a lot of what you've done with interns and your leadership style. How do you intentionally integrate that mentorship into your leadership style or business strategy? What practices or mindsets help you ensure it's more than a one-time exchange?
Oh, that's a great question. Thank you. And actually, I'm going to answer it by saying, as Ingrid was talking and as you were asking the question, I actually mentor quite a number of people much older than me. And it's something that we forget, right? We don't all have to mentor younger people because, like you said, our skill set is completely different. I have spent a decade raising money, probably more than a decade, and failing and being successful. And when you have been able to fail, you can highlight, if you had done that, if I had done that, if I had, and you get this mindset as an entrepreneur, you just keep powering on, you keep pivoting. So, I mean, I have real examples of every single person that has ever worked with me in the last 10 years is all still in my life. Here is something even more interesting. For one of the businesses where we raised millions of dollars, 33 investors fundamentally lost their money, and it was millions of dollars. Half of those investors wanted to reinvest in the next company I started, and all 32 of those investors, bar one, are still part of my social life, my professional life, and my personal life. So it's like, how do you lead by example and be authentic? You don't overpromise and underdeliver. And if you can show, so my value of success is not about money. My value of success is freedom and being able to pay it forward. That's the most important thing to me. And that really resonates with everybody I'm still in touch with after all these years, and some lost a lot of money.
I love that. We do have a chapter in the book that is on entrepreneurship. So we're not jumping into that as much as we'd like to today. But I do highlight, a lot of entrepreneurship is difficult, blood, sweat, tears, time, and many do fail. They can fail. I mean, that is, and we also talk about investors. What do investors look for to invest in businesses? What are important things to articulate? And as you highlighted, Deborah, investors invest in the people and the team. They love you. They may love your idea, but they really love you. They know the person and they trust the leadership and the team you've put together. And whenever I talk to investors and say, what do you look for when you invest in? They always say the team, the team, the team. So I know we're not the entrepreneurial webinar, but I wanted to share that because both of you have been such wonderful entrepreneurs. You shared a lot of insight, and I'm doing a program in Togo to help female entrepreneurs. We may have to share this video with them. So I know we're coming to the end of our time. So I want to do a lightning round with you. Um, what's one piece of advice uh, that you would give someone who's ready to take action in their career or community, but isn't sure where to start? Ingrid, what do you think?
Um, I before that, Shelly, if I may, I would like to thank you because talking about leadership and how mentorship relates, to basically make us better leaders. I think you have been really critical in my career as well as a leader.
Thank you.
Working with you has been such a gift. You've been a mentor to me, and through our work together, I've gained a lot of clarity and focus. That we started, I think it was 2 years ago. And when we started talking, I was like, my brain was multitasking and thinking on so many things. I had so many things going on in my life. And, through my journey, my sessions with you were giving me like clarity and also I would say peace, like hey, relax, everything is going to be okay, just do what you have to do, like focus, you can do it. So it has been really, really tremendous to me. So I think, and if I try to pair what I've learned with you, being you as my mentor and with my mentees, um, something that has really, really, really been insightful from them is that these ladies have low, like really, really few resources, but they have built with the really short resources that they have, like the small resources that they have, with clarity, with courage, with creativity. So they have made impact with really, really small things. We don't need to overload ourselves with courses, skills, and with the digital environment, like this mindset of always do, 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 do. No, you first need to focus on being here and use what you already have and then try to build on that, right? So that would be if I pair, what at the clarity and focus that I've learned being as a mentee and then being a resourceful with being as a mentor, I pair those learnings and that is being I would say that would be like the legacy, right? Like the one that I want to keep focusing on my next sessions, on my next help that I can bring. I think that would be it. Like I want to keep working on that.
Awesome. Thank you so much. Deborah, what's one piece of advice you would like to give to someone who's ready to take action in their career or community, but isn't sure where to start?
3 words: passion, passion, passion. If you've got passion, you can do anything at all. You can overcome anything, you can pivot, you can learn, you can meet people, but you have to be passionate about what you do. You are not having a dress rehearsal, you are the star of your own life. That's all you need is passion.
I love that. This is not a dress rehearsal. That's incredible. And Ingrid, I love what you said because in the West, we have a thing about being busy, being busy, being busy. Do, do, do. Fill your calendar. Meeting, meeting, meeting. And I'm going to throw back to one of my role models, who is Dr. Tidiane Utara, who's the president of the African Space Council for the African Space Agency. And he shares how, in Africa, we don't need to overload ourselves with all this stress. We do what we can, and then tomorrow is another day. And I think that is a really good methodology because we overwhelm ourselves sometimes, as you said, Ingrid, with all the things on our to-do list. Write it down, put it down, and you can do what you can do today. And then you also need to enjoy life because life is a gift and we need to enjoy it every day. So
Definitely.
I'm so thankful you both were able to join me today for this incredible journey. Thank you for your time.
Thank
Thanks
you,
you
Shelli.
for the invitation.
Excellent. Well, let me kind of wrap up with some closing thoughts that I have. That, first of all, this has been an inspiring and deeply personal conversation. Today's dialogue reminds us that mentorship isn't a chapter in our story, it's often the spark that launches an entire trajectory. Through the insights of Ingrid and Deborah, we gained a deeper understanding of how mentorship unlocks confidence, creates access, and amplifies our ability to lead with purpose. It's not reserved for the few. It's a force for all of us that can be activated, whether we're lifting others up or being lifted ourselves. So, chapter 10 is about mentorship, sets you up for success. That closes out the next book, but it opens a powerful invitation to see mentorship not as a transaction, but as transformation. It's how wisdom travels, how opportunities grow, and how leadership traits last. As we close today's wonderful conversation, I invite you to carry this forward, not as inspiration, but as a spark for action. Think of one insight that resonated with you, whether it was the power of showing up as a mentor, the reminder that you don't need permission to lead, or the value of paying it forward, the guidance you received. Act on it. Start a conversation. Offer a word of encouragement. Open that door for someone who's just beginning, because mentorship isn't about grand gestures. It's just about being consistent, purposeful moments that help others rise. This session may be the close of our series on action, but it's just the beginning of what mentorship can create. I hope you'll continue this journey with us through future conversations as we explore the full landscape of leadership, awareness, access, and of course, the power of turning purpose into motion, action. Thank you again to our speakers and to each of you for being part of this mission. And until next time, I'm Shelli Brunswick, and I look forward to seeing you around the galaxy.
Bye, Shelli.
Bye bye.